I feel really sorry for your Pinky. Sunset turned to see it and look at a nearly identical face on the other side and spoke. You do realize you run a flag, don't you? And how exactly did I run Pinky, Raz? Sunset asked Raspberry. Raspberry said nothing, but instead just looked at Sunset with an uneven gaze. So Sunset decided to make her point. I mean, I already had to live with a lot of guilt about how I've unintentionally hurt her in multiple other ways. So please, give me another reason to feel bad about everything, right, don't you? Sunset adjusted slightly. Rares, are we almost done here? Almost done with your measurements, dear, Rarity told her friend. After that, I'll have to measure Raspberry, then Shimmer here. You really don't have to do that for me, Rarity, Shimmer said, protesting. Yeah, besides, I'm practically the same size as Shimmy, which means I could borrow all of Sunny's old clothes, right? Raspberry commented. As it is, I'm still trying to figure out why you humans wear clothes all the time to begin with. Well, Shimmer dear, you are a friend, and friends do things for one another, do they not? Rarity said with a beaming smile. And to answer your question, Raspberry darling, well, I suppose we couldn't get into discussion about naturalism at a later time. Certain articles of clothing one simply does not borrow, intimates for one. I suppose we could take you shopping for that later, but as to why I'm mentioning her, well, with her added weight and bust, I'm sure Sunset would like better fitting clothing, which I'm all too happy to provide. As I said for Shimmer, she is a new friend, and it would be divine to create new clothing for her such a person. Yeah, you're Rarity, all right, Raspberry drawled. Without catching Raspberry's statement, the teen fashionista continued. But Raspberry, dear, your tones are different from both Sunset and Shimmer. While her old attire would fit you, it would not look as good. Both of them are a fiery Gallic persuasion, while you seem to be towards cooler persuasion inflection. The smile of Rarity's was brief. He needed a separate look for a different you. I have no idea what you just said, but whatever. There in her head, Raspberry nodded. Yep, this is definitely human rarity. Fiery Gallic persuasion? Shimmer said to no one in particular. Just roll with it, Jimmy. Sunset responded, cutting in. Anyway, what were you saying, Raz? Oh yeah, anyway. I was saying your situation with Pinky reminded me of, well, remember the old story of the fall of Queen Calyx? That doesn't sound familiar. Rarity says she finished with Sunset and went over to measure Raspberry. It shouldn't, as it's from Equus, not Earth, Sunset explained. It's part of the matter of Unicornia. It dates back to the earliest pre-unification times. I'd love to hear it. Rarity, if you don't mind, Rarity stated. From where she sat, Shimmer agreed as well. Well, okay, let me see if I can remember the whole thing. It's been a while. The story goes that the Princess of Unicornia, at the time, Princess Calyx, grew up with the son of one of the castle's cooks, a young colt by the name of Sunburst. Despite their situations in life, they were the closest of friends. As they grew older, that strong friendship blossomed into the truest of love. But alas, Sunburst was a commoner. He couldn't become a knight, much less a noble stallion. As for Calyx, as the only foal of the kings, she was destined to become queen someday. Wait a second, Rarity asked. So I thought your grandmother was queen. She is. And I thought your mother, like your biological mother that is the ruling princess regent. She is. Then how? Raspberry was the one to explain. When King Faust gave up the throne, her daughters were too young. As a result, some nobles stepped in and declared themselves kings and queens for a few hundred years. The Europeans and other tribes split off as well, so for a few centuries there were separate nations that had constant conflict with each other, and we call that period in our history the Warring States era. As for Princesses Celestia and Luna, they all been forgotten save for their tear Star Swirl, who kept us safe until the coming of the Calamity. The Calamity? Raspberry, who hired that local flyer-sized father, shared the same name as the Avatar of Chaos, it could possibly be Discord's counterpart, decided to go with an alternate name for the Discordian area. That's why it was a panic Fluttershy. In any case, that's overheard, not slightly in agreement. So Raspberry went with that. It was Star Swirl's successor, Clover the Clever, who urged the royal sisters to fight the Calamity and restored their mother's throne. Sunset took back over, preventing further questions from Rarity. In any case, the story happens during the Warring States era. Now, that stasis couldn't deter Sunburst's love for Calyx, nor hers for him. Even as she learned statecraft and was wooed by nobles, she remained ever true to her heart's desire. And even as Sunburst learned the art of sword and bow from a kindly knight, Becoming such a warrior of renown that even other Sarge ponies would bow before his skills, the king himself would call upon Sunburst to deal with the crises of the highest dread. His heart would have no other. Whenever they could, they met in secret, and loved one another as only true hearts could. They dallied whenever their time was free, with only the closest of her hoofmaids in the know. After all, it would be a scandal for the crown for a commoner to be in such intimate discretion with his future ruler. And as for her, none of royal birth could deny to be one of a commoner. Far easier to marry a Griffith warlord than wed a commoner unicorn. Or worse, one of the other tribes. And yet, under the apple tree in the royal gardens, they swore their ever-pledged love to one another, with only the stars and truest vassals as witnesses. Years passed, and the king grew old and infirm, and Calyx assumed the position of viceroy, doing what her father could not, and continuing the prosperity of the land, while Sunburst continued to bedevil any pony who would threaten the safety and sanctity of Unicornia. The king, unaware of the love between his daughter and warrior, offered Sunburst as a token of thanks the hoof of any common mare in the realm, but he refused, stating his heart was pledged elsewhere. As for Calyx, she begged her father to honor the warrior with knighthood and nobility. But the other noble ponies, jealous of Sunburst's accolades and prowess, persisted in getting the king to reconsider. This continued for years, until the old king passed, and Calyx rose to the throne. Once crowned queen, her first edict would be that not only would she make Sunburst her greatest of knights for her services to the realm, but would she take his hoof in matrimony. The kingdom cheered for the new queen and her prince-to-be, but the greatest of joy would be within the hearts of Calyx and Sunburst, finally to be united in love at last. However, one would not hear of the pending marriage. Lord Briarthorn, who coveted both Calyx's hoof as well as the throne. He conspired with other foul knaves. Foul knaves? Rarity giggled. My, it seems that someone is getting into the story. Look, do you want me to tell it? Sunset said, stopping the argument. In any case, Briarthorn, the court's mate and historian, told Sunburst that he truly wished to perform acts worthy of a knight. He had to go out and recover the greatest of gifts. The sword of Queen Faust herself, Rosegarden, the sword of love. Then, only then would he prove himself worthy. Knowing this to be true, Sunset set off in search of Rosegarden. In truth, however, Briarthorn marshaled a cabal of forces against his rival, sending assassins that would harry Sunburst for years. And this treachery by Briarthorn began to succeed over the years. With Sunburst away, Briarthorn continued to pledge his troth to Calyx, only to have it spurned time and time again. Meanwhile, Sunburst fought with monsters, assassins, and countless attempts to woo him away from his goal. Yet they failed, for he continued to forever stay close to Calyx in heart. Even still, Briarthorn continued his evil ways, and a chance of fortune was swaying his way. Then one day it did. Sunset looked at her friends, and they could see they were hushed, well caught up within the story. Rarity's eyes were swept up in trials of true loves, holding together against all odds. As for Raspberry, she held it all up before, and she did love a good tale spun now and then. Years passed, and Sunspur and Calyx had not given up on each other, though time had taken its toll. The smile Sunburst had left so much on Calyx's face that all but vanished, and in the castle, Briarthorn continued to press for her hoof. Meanwhile, Sunburst found Rosegarden in the farthest reaches of the Crystal Empire, and was now en route to Unicornia, when a strange being requested his aid, the Megan. The Megan? Rarity asked, intrigued by the name. A mythical hero, Raspberry explained. In our myths, humans are considered either monstrous, evil creatures who mean harm to ponies, or wise, preternatural beings who grant your every wish. Like genies, Sunset clarified, the Megan is alone exception to the rules. The stories go that the Megan came from human lands to teach ponies culture and civilization, and that she got ponies to stop speaking the old tribal tongues and settle on Equus as the lingua franca. We don't know if she's real, though. I suppose grandmother knows the truth. I could ask. Well, she is real, but she belongs in a completely another dimension and belongs in the Hasbroverse. I think we're better off not knowing, Raspberry replied. Besides, I know enough humans now anyway, so go ahead and continue, Sunny. Sure thing. Anyway, the Megan asked for his assistance in freeing a town of ponies from brigands. They were too much even for her might. Seeing a need to save units, he readily agreed, and the two fought a massive battle to save the town of Earth ponies from Pegasus raiders. For hours, they toiled with sword and spear, battling off waves and wings of Pegasus hordes, until victory came, and with it, treachery. From the south of a nearby glade of trees, one of Briarthorn's assassins struck true, firing a poisoned arrow straight into Sunburst's barrel. Though Megan removed the arrow from her companion's side, it was too late, and the venom struck true. Emboldened by the news, while Sunburst was facing his final fate, Briarthorn and his forces attacked and conquered Unicornia. Declaring himself king, he then forced himself on Calyx, and then add insult to injury, he repeatedly stabbed her, leaving her alive but maimed. Both were legitimate, and so she could not raise an army against him. Sunset could practically see Rarity's jaw drop. "I thought you said this was a fairy tale," she gasped. "Let's just let this start playing in my head." "Not all fairy tales are pretty," Sunset spoke. "They've just been changed over the years, and even ones that seem antiseptic, like Snow White, have darker origins." "But that's horrible!" Rarity cried. "Do you want to hear the rest?" Sunset asked, and Shimmer nodded. Finally, after recomposing herself, Rarity did as well, and Sunset continued. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, as he lay dying, Sunburst begged Megan to head to Unicornia and save his love, to give her a rose garden and let her know his last breath was of love for her. It would always be so. With that, Sunburst closed his eyes and remained forever still. Vowing that she would fulfill his final wish, the Megan sailed towards Unicornia, mercilessly slaughtering the assassins Briarthorn threw against her. Now, knowing the full story, she would put Briarthorn to her sword's justice and save Queen Calyx. But it was not to be. For when she finally arrived at the gates of the capital, the Megan wept for what she had seen. The town had been reduced to a Bertor, with the bodies of the dead and ruined everywhere, and the center of it all was Calyx, filled with rage and hatred, and changed. Her horn was cracked and bent, and looked nothing like a proud Lighterine. Her once bright coat was now turned black, from both soot and caked blood. Her mint-green mane was now a teal mess, and despite her wounds, she wore armor that looked nigh demonic. When Megan explained her presence, Calyx screamed at her for not being there to protect her from Briarthorn, or the populace for Calyx's grief and rage-fueled slaughter. She blamed her fellow unicorns for letting her nobles have their way, and other ponies for abandoning them. She even blamed Sunburst for breaking his promise to be for whatever, as not more than a shade now. He could not keep his vow. When that vow broken, she swore a new one, that all unicorns, indeed all life on this world, would suffer just as she had, screaming out the pain and agony just as she had for losing the one she loved most. So, just to make sure, King Cocoon, this is not the origin story of the changelings, just for future reference. Knowing what was at stake, the Megan pled for Calyx to give up her hatred and forgive. The Sunburst would not want to see her in such pain, and would have given his life once more to save her from such agony. The human masterfully pled her case, knowing that when true love is present, few forces are stronger, and when her eternal love for him would forever keep him alive, just as he would always exist within her, and never abandon her. So proof, Megan showed Calyx Rose Garden, the sword once belonging to Queen Faust, now Sunburst's truest token of love for Calyx. But Calyx screamed that she would forever be alone. Worse, she would give birth to the foals of the stallion that defiled her. She claimed herself forever cursed, and would suffer until the end of time. But the Megan then asked Calyx a single question. If she were to kill the world, if she were to destroy everything out of pain and misery, would Calyx remain the mare that Sunburst had loved so? Standing there with her wounds festering, and her coat and armor, her very soul stained with more blood than imaginable, Calyx spent a long time in thought. So much so that Megan feared the near-insane unicorn would recommence her wanted slaughter. See, Megan could not abide that. And with a heavy heart, she knew she had to save Calyx or keen to that. But the unicorn looked at the human with soft eyes, and in response, the wounded, wrong queen made two last requests of Megan, that the latter promised to do without fail. The first would be to find a foal from the poorest of the poor, but with a heart pure in the best magical great gem, or most sterling of gold. Megan found that foal in a ramshackle village, an orphan who gave more of herself than she would. Her name was Penny Lane. Penny Lane! I'm sorry, this is the only joke I got, folks. And though the cults of the village haunted her for her parentless, they soon changed their tune when the young Queen Penny was coronated and enthroned upon the seat of Unicornia. The Megan watched over the young queen until she was of age, In other words, none could gainsay that Queen Penny was unjust, unfair, or unwise. The other vow was to bury Sunburst in a place of honor, far from Unicornia and other pony lands, and far from all, on top of a vast spire of stone, a giant yellow granite that seemed to pierce the very heavens. Sunburst was laid to rest, with Rose Garden embedded into his headstone. And Megan swore that someday would find Sunburst find peace that he desired, and the love he never had the chance to fulfill. The sword still sits upon the lonely spire to this day, waiting for a champion to claim it. A soul so invested in love for another that the sword would be the instrument of justice and valor it was always meant to be, the tool of a great hero to protect the one loved most. And on some night somewhere, you can still hear Queen Calyx, now known by her name of Queen Chrysalis, mourning the love she lost and the emptiness she forever feels. As Sunset finished her story, the trio were silent for a few moments, until Rarity gasped, "That is a horrifying tale, and I fail to see how that story has anything to do with Sunset." Well, without Rare's drama, I'm going to have to agree with her, Ras, Sunset added. Care to explain? Because it's a story about some boy so in love with another that he did anything to prove himself worthy of her, not realizing the most important thing was to be there for her. Likewise, Calyx could have been smart about finding nobility and taking Sunburst's love anyway, but she cared too much about how it looked, tying herself to others' opinions rather than that of her loved one. Raspberry looked at Sunset. From what I've seen, I can tell your Pinky is completely and utterly in love with you, and she'll probably never change from that. Sunset looked at her fellow equestrian. Look, Pinky said that there are other guys and girls that she's... No, I believe I understand what Raz is saying, Sarah interjected. Sonny, you're now a cultist. A literal living cultist. Wasn't exactly my choice. Doesn't change the facts, though. Even if Pinky were to marry some Hollywood heartthrob like Sunglass Fair, she could never love him. Not the way she knows you. After all, how do you top a deity? How is there any way to top that? Exactly, Raspberry added. I think that's part of the reason neither Celestia nor Luna date. When you're in Alicorn, the chances of finding somebody, like when Cadus found Shining, is rare. Beyond that, even. And I'll bet that even though you're probably looking for a human partner, Sonny, it's probably not going to be any easier for you either. Sunset looked at the others with a look of incredulousness. So you're saying I should just throw myself at Pinky, even though I don't feel anything romantically for her? Raz, just because we come from a world where homosexuality is far more common than it is here, doesn't mean that all mares are bi, just like the old joke says. I'm not suggesting that. Then what are you suggesting? Pinky's heart is not a toy, and I certainly would never treat her like one, Sunset said firmly. I think I understand what idea Raspberry is suggesting, Rarity spoke. Raspberry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you mean to suggest that Sunset go out with Pinky on a single date? Exactly. Sunset looked at her friends warily. You did just catch the part where I said I wasn't going to treat her like shit, didn't you? Of course we know that, Sunset, darling. And for you, perhaps it'll be nothing more than spending a day with a good friend. And that's that. But to Pinky would mean the world for her. Besides, Sonny, you're the Alicorn of Earth now. And the well-being of this realm is your responsibility, including that of your court. Of course, I'm not suggesting you sleep with all of them, Raspberry laughed. You're really pushing it, Ras, Sunset growled. Oh, Celestia, I'm so glad I'm twice court. Her only problem is which book to read in the evenings. Rarity decided it was time to defuse the situation. Sunset, do you truly care about Pinky and her happiness? She asked. You know the answer to that, Rares, Sunset retorted. Now please, ask yourself this. If it were any of us in your shoes, and say for example it was Pinky in love with me, you wouldn't dare ask me to give her the night of her life. Not because I care for her romantically, but because she's a dear friend, and you care enough to see her smile. That's how I feel. Pinky's happiness means a lot to me, and one night out with a friend to you is just de rigueur, but it would mean the world to her. Rarity took her friend's hands in her own, so please consider it. Despite Raspberry's tasteless jokes, no one is asking you to be intimate with Pinky. Please consider what I'm asking. Sunset sighed. I'll consider it. I'm not saying yes, but only that I'm going to consider it. Good. Now that that's said, I'll be taking my leave and taking Raspberry with me. Raspberry looked at her. Why? Well, darling, I am quite capable of making many items for my friends. But footwear, I'm afraid, is beyond my ken. And besides, a lady can never have too many shoes. So where are you shopping? Can I take a rain check on that? Raspberry asked nervously. I remembered the time she had gone shopping with Rarity, who was more familiar with. Susie couldn't hear herself. Gee, Raz, Rares is a dear friend of mine, and I care how she feels. It would be nice if someone were to agree to go with her. Even though it's a minor concern for them, it would mean the world to me. Raspberry narrowed her eyes at the Alicorn. You did this on purpose. Nope, not at all. Have fun. Simmer looked at her twin. You really didn't do that. No, trust me. I would have been a lot more blatant if I had. Keynes looked at the paperwork on her desk. Seriously? Yeah, seriously, Hearts of Flare, her friend stated. It's what the boss wants, since you got the short end of the stick. Keynes buried her face in a palm. He can't possibly be serious. My fiancé was the arresting officer, and that's a massive conflict of interest. I know I was joking about it before, but just the whiff of impropriety could get the case thrown out. Keynes, seriously, they're not going anywhere, remember? They're catatonic. As a result of whatever happened to them shortly after Shining called them, you'll be fine. Not anymore, someone said, and the two women turned to one of the other guys in the office standing there. Just got a call from Norco. One of them came out of her stupor, and so the jail wants to arrange an interview with the defense attorney for the three of them, as soon as we can. We also have to contact social services, as they are still technically minors, or at least until a judge inevitably charges them as adults with intent to stand trial. All the more reason I think I should be on the case. Public Defender's Office is probably going to have a field day with this one. Yeah, we know, but you got the draw, Keynes. You can't get out easily, the other guy told her in place of hearts. I would work something out with the county, then get over it and done with. From what I've done in cases like that before, when you have someone that far gone, they're creepier than any shit you see in the movie. Trust me, you'll want it over and done with soonest. Gee, thanks. You're welcome, she told her. But for what it's worth, I don't think this is going to be one stand trial. No sane human does that sort of thing, and even the ficklest of bastards, Night Stalker, Helter Skelter, and so on and so forth, they were methodical and planned. Everything I've seen so far in this case said these girls acted like wild animals, not the actions of sane people. Trust me, they're not going to see the nice side of bars ever again. The first thing Octavia went and did when she got home was race upstairs to her bedroom, running past everyone without saying a word. She suddenly felt possessed, driven by something other than the evil counterpart within her, constantly needing the train to take her over. Well, she couldn't explain why she felt those ways she did at the moment. She just needed to know to go to her room. The moment she arrived, she reached out for her acoustic guitar and started to play. She wasn't sure why she was, only that somehow it felt right, and that was something that kept the monster within her at bay. Maybe it was that Melody, despite her name, hated it. Maybe because Octavia's shield against her darker side. Because it was a part of who she truly was. Maybe it's because it was the sort of thing she knew. She let her pick slide across the strings, her finger dancing on the neck, the haunting tune coming out of her. Was it there was best or not? Only that she had to play for some reason. Somehow that was enough for her right now. For no other purpose than to give a fuck you to her alter ego. Yeah, so it goes, no there, so it goes. That's the end, them Abbey Stones. Ooh, take a chance and roll the bones. Ooh, cut off your hair, unplug your phone. Yeah, sell your belongings, all your clever drawings. I'll try to make $1 from the grave. Yeah, sell your belongings, all your clever drawings. Try to make $1 from the grave. But who's to blame? Her eyes filled with tears. This was the one thing she had to prove who she was. That she was Octavia and Melody. Not merely Octavia, or definitely not Melody. That she might be physically two people in one. But that fusion was a single person she was. And that whatever it was within her wasn't going to destroy her. She would stand firm and fast. Despite the fear rising up to her throat, she would force it down with her talisman of earth wood and phosphor bronze strings and effeminating maple neck. Yeah, so it goes. Yeah, so it goes. Them city boys in country clothes. Oh, take all taunts and load the bones. Go crash your car, burn down your home. Yeah, try to forget all your enemies and debts. They'll just chase you around and give you sour dreams. Yeah, try to forget all your enemies and debts. They'll just chase you around and give you sour dreams. Or so it seems. She continued to play until she was spent, but she couldn't strum another note and couldn't sing another line. Until she had to face the inevitable and drown herself in 250 milligrams of personality killer, 5 more milligrams of fake personality. The 2 drugs would force Melody away, but she was afraid they were forcing away who she was as well. But to give up would let Melody win. That terrified Octavia as well. Yeah, I'll struggle all you like. Yeah, put up the good fight. They say someday everybody dies alone. Yes, I struggle all you like. Put up the good fight. They say everybody dies alone. But hey, who knows? Yeah, hey, who knows? Yeah, hey, who really knows? She felt 2 arms snake around her and dropped her guitar, bawling uncontrollably. Behind her, holding on to her for all she was worth, Sunset consoled her cousin, reminding her of how much she was loved and how much Sunset would be there for her. 4 more girls joined in the embrace, and soon 6 sisters cried in unison, a Pleiades of sorrow. Standing away from them, Shimmer turned away, knowing this was a private moment for the 6 girls. To her, it was the final crossing of vain feelings of jealousy or envy she had towards her doppelganger. Sunset might have been a more perfect version of the 2 of them, but those perfections were magnified not just by her flaws, but her problems as well. Problems that Shimmer wouldn't have had once she returned to France. She went downstairs, just in time for both Raspberry and Rarity to step into the house. The latter carrying several boxes, busted her consternation, while the former had a soft smile. The sisters are tied up right now, Sarah told him, explaining what little she saw of Octavia's haunted, impromptu session, the outpouring of the other girls. Good, because what I have to say isn't for them to hear, Rarity told her. Shimmer, are you serious about your offer this morning to take us all to Los Angeles for a makeup vacation? Absolutely, the girl said. Then, if you don't mind, I need your help, for Peaky's sake. I know what you're going to ask me, Shimmer responded, and don't bother asking. I'll agree to it. Rarity got dour. You're not interested in hearing my proposal? No. I think it is the 3rd time we've known each other. You do whatever you're planning for your friends. Not because you love them dearly, but I would do the same for my friends too. I have spent the last few days jealous that Sunny is more perfect than the 2 of us, without realizing she's not really perfect. She's just better at being the Sunset he needs to be. So I need to be better as the Sunset I need to be. That's very polite, Simmy, Raspberry commented. Perhaps, but the truth doesn't have a monopoly as the condition of the soul. I think that maybe if I improved my own self-standing, maybe it'll be enough to make you feel jealous about my big twin sister, no? She smiled. So let's go to the kitchen and talk this over. I suspect this plan of yours is going to involve money. That I can easily outspend Sunny on. The sun had been like that for 2 weeks now, barely flaying, and a late summer afternoon had become like late fall in terms of warmth. It was starting to affect agriculture, and even the best of earth ponies were starting to have problems growing crops. The sun and its warmth and magic were needed, and Luna was practically running the government at this moment. No time to continue working on the situation. Celestia had sunk into a deep depression, and the world was suffering for it. But at the same time, Luna could hardly blame her. With 2 weeks on, there was no confirmation that Sunset's home dimension was accessible. Twilight had her hopes filled, trying to begin the restoration process of Ponyville, as well as the fact that there was a dead and to be buried and mourned, one of which was Raspberry. But once it does Ponyville, all slices of Equestria, from the Empire to the Badlands, from the unknown west to Baltimore, were recuperating from the war. While Equestria's allies were doing what they could to help, the fact was that T-Rex forces were still out there, battling remained their battles. The last report from Appaloosa indicated such, with several guards and soldiers lost in the battle, so they completely destroyed the enemy forces there. And out there somewhere was another evil. There always was. But this time Equestria knew it wasn't ready. And given that all nations of Equestria tend to be the readiest for issues like this, their flare-up would be a lethal wound to the nation, into the world. Somehow, the world seemed to hang on a thread now. No, a main follicle. A single gold and ruby main follicle. You'd best be alive, my niece, Luna thought to herself as she watched the pale orb, merely brighter than her own moon, settle down for the night. Or else I fear that your loss may precede our own.